So the first thing you're going to do is find a board that you've found for cheap that you can upcycle. I found this from the range, and I am just going to paint my edges white, blank out the message, and come in and put in a base coat in acrylic. That will act as a sealer and a great base coat, and also remove the words that you don't want to see coming through. But I do love a good positive message hidden within my art. So when you're at a stage where you have painted your frame with your acrylic, I've done 2 or 3 coats, I've just got to do one more in the middle. When I add my final layer around, when it's slightly wet, the paint, I'm going to take a little bit of glitter and blow it onto the frame edges, just add a nice little sparkle there. That's optional. I just know that this client loves a little bit of bling. So making sure all my edges are done and yeah, sealed it in the middle. I'll show you what it looks like with that glitter. So you may not be able to see it in this light, but I have put a little bit of glitter on my hand, blew it, and there is a nice little subtle sparkle that'll come through. Okay, now my edges are done. I have just put down some turquoise, which is from Amsterdam, and it's going to be mixed in with a little bit of light, and I'm going to come and just paint the centre piece before I come in and paint my whales. The reason I do that is just to help set a little bit of that tone coming through, and when I add my resin for my oceans, I use transparent colours so you get to see all the layers right down. So it is important that although the brush strokes don't have to be perfect, you could see down on it. So it's really just to help when I put the whales on top, it pops, and also seal this MDF board. All right, let's get on with it. I've now blocked in my base. It doesn't matter if you've got those different tones coming through, as long as the edges you don't have any obvious brush strokes. And I've added a tiny little bit of glitter in there, just so as I build up those transparency colours, that's when it will add for value. Now I've just got to touch up a few little bits of my edges, and then when this paint's really dry, I will put masking tape around the top to protect that as we start to work on our ocean. But I am going to come in and paint my first layer of the pot of whales, and this one is just going to be the silhouette, so you're not going to go do the detail, it's just so I know where it's going to be. Then I'll add a layer of resin, then I'll repaint my whales and I'll add the detail, and then it should just need one more layer of resin and that should be done. Once we start to get to the resin though, I'll show you how we protect our back. Other than that, it's use your imagination, use the reference photo, and think about where you want your pot of whales swimming to, and channel positive energy and nature. So I will talk through a little bit of this, but then I'll put a little bit of Sharon's Dodgy FM. Now, I like to come in with just some black paint and start to work out where my whales are going to be. And I keep mine a simple shape. They're not going to be picture perfect or anatomically correct. You just want enough information to tell the person that's looking at it or the viewer what it's meant to be. So there's a few key shapes that you need to ensure you get in there. So you see, I ensure I put in there my body, which comes down to that long, strong back end of the whale, the tail onto his big, I want to say fin. Anyway, you'll see what I mean by the shapes. So other than I obviously do different sizes so that it gives you that impression that there might be smaller ones there, male, female. And whenever I'm doing this, I think about where do I want to imagine them being, because I think when you're adding whales to a resin mixed media piece, you want to have enough space for the vastness of the ocean to give perspective, but you also want them to be a feature. So I go by the rule of odd numbers. So I would do either 3 whales, 5 whales, or 7 whales. You work out which you want to do, but it's all about, it's more aesthetically pleasing within artwork. Now when I do my like the silhouettes, that's purely to help me understand where this is going to be throughout when I add the different layers of resin. And I think the thing I don't know when I'm painting this is how the resin's going to respond with each level. So you might need to bring them up once, you might need to bring them up twice until you get that happy balance. But you'll see me work through that problem. It's not really a problem. Working through the play on the resin and the play on the whales until I'm happy with them. So I'm going to put a little bit of Sharon's Dodgy FM on. You will see this fast forward a little bit once you've understood the main shape that I create. It's a lot of repetition. Now you may choose not to add your white embellishment parts until you're comfortable that you think one of those whales is going to be saved and you won't need to bring it up. Sometimes if you don't put the white detail in, you could miss an opportunity if there's a real nice section of resin going over it. Anyway, I hope you relax and enjoy, and I hope you're enjoying seeing this process come to life. And if you haven't already, please consider giving me a thumbs up or subscribe if you haven't already. And remember to hit that notification bell, because that really helps me and my channel. And I want to say thank you so much for each and every one of you, for every minute that you spend with me. It's very valuable. So just with masking tape, I have added 3 layers and pushed it right into the cracks here. Now this should prevent your resin leaking out altogether if you're upcycling your board, or if you do get any spillage, it will be minimal. But once we've got our first coat of resin down, it shouldn't really be an issue. So the front has now a little bit of masking tape all the way around. The reason I do that is I'm a messy worker and I'm probably going to get resin drips on there, and that helps prevent it. It may pull off some of the glitter, but that's okay. We can always do a little bit of acrylic on there again and put some more glitter on there. But for me, I'm just trying to protect as I go. And then now I'm going to level my board to make sure that I control where the resin goes. And I am going to mix up 300 ml worth of resin. You could get away with 200, but it might be a little bit tight. And I'm going to then show 3 different colours all the way through. And that's all we're going to do for this layer. We're going to let it cure. And then we'll come through on the next one and paint these whales. I am using sheer craft resin. I'll show you what that looks like soon, and I'll show you the 3 colours. The most important thing when working with resin is making sure that your board is as level as possible both ways. I have just used some paper cups that I use over and over and adjusted them until they're right. So the resin I have used is sheer craft. It's classed as a premium epoxy. I'm only just working with it, but it's a 1-to-1 part hardener and resin. I've got a mixing cup, so I've mixed up 1 cup worth of resin, which is half a cup hardener, half a cup resin, and then I've added in that my Colour Cottage Super Sparkle White, because I love to have a little bit of sparkle coming out in my ocean. I've put a little bit more generously in there, the sparkle on the first layer, and I will ease that up as we go into the next 2 layers. And let me show you the colours. So I have distributed my colours into what I think. I've made more of the Resinate Turquoise and slightly less of the Ocean Water Blue, which is just for you online. And then the darkest indigo, that is going to be really for the edges, and that's Resin 8. So this one's opaque and these 2 are transparent, but I only put a little dot in there just to try and help that colour be a little bit more opaque. Similar kind of dot there, it's quite a bright blue and the green. But if I mix this in and out, it should be okay. I'll try and keep the deepest indigo to the outer edge, and what that could help do is draw your eye to the place where the whales are going to be, that's going to be slightly lighter to be the hero. But that's the thought. And if you overcommit with a colour, don't stress at this stage, because as you layer up, you can tweak it about. So there's going to be no white added at this stage. There's going to be no waves put in there or anything like that. I really am just trying to get my first layer of resin in, and then I'll start to work out which of these whales I'm going to bring up, which am I going to leave black, because they'll go on to the next layer. Anyway, the cup is up tipped. I always recommend do that. Get as much of that resin out there as you can. This is a silicone cup, so when that dries, I'll be able to peel that out and reuse that over and over. Now, 1 cup might be slightly too less for what we need, but I think it'll do us. Be tight, there's going to be no spare, but because we are literally just dumping the colours and letting it dry, it should be okay. So that's what we're going to do. And with the transparent, that'll just bleed into the colours and you'll get some more little bits of depth in there. So yeah, colours and everything will be in my description. Remember to check that out. But let's get on with pouring. Firstly, with resin, if you're new to it, please do remember your safety. Well ventilated area, wear a respirator, wear gloves to protect your hands. You might work with resin and find that you have no reactions, but you can build up your reactions over time. So please, please, please take all that very seriously. Okay, what am I doing at the minute? I'm going around with my darker tones to the edge and just applying it very carefully, and then I'm randomly putting it around the board, because when you look through to the ocean, you might not be able to see that far down, or if you do, there's going to be different shades of dark colours, whether there be boulders, whether they're going to be depth, whether they're going to be coral, seaweed, anything. You just want to create a sense of movement. So I do a similar kind of thing with the Deep Ocean Blue, and again trying to get near the edge, and then I will come and add the turquoise. Now you can see I've up-tipped my cup. I recommend that you do that if you've got space, because your resin will continue to leak out and nobody wants to waste resin, it's expensive. So it's just very random but very carefully around the edges, trying to get some into that corner, because I've got, I don't know, I can be quite messy, so if I don't have enough in the corner and I have to put it in the corner, I'm most likely going to get it on the edge. You will see me clear up as I go, just trying to protect this border, and I'm just channeling the client. She's been a very loyal supporter of mine for a long time, and I originally started this, this is my second attempt, and the first attempt just didn't feel right for her and it just wasn't coming together, so I just wanted to strip it back, get it back to its purity, and get that sparkle in there, and really take my time and channel this client, and I absolutely love the end result. I hope you do too as well, Kat. Anyway, you can see I went quite light with my resin, but I'd rather go light as long as there's enough to touch the edges and cover it all, because this is going to be going out to Australia and you're conscious of the weight of it as well. So that's why I went a little bit sparingly with the resin, but I'm using my popsicle stick just to show the resin where it needs to go, and if you pull it into those blank areas it will self-level and it'll just help that process quicker. And you'll see me then, I'll come around, I'll get my hands in there. I like to connect with my art somehow and just try and blend that through, and trying to get that sense of movement within the ocean. Also knowing that this will be covered up and it will go slightly lighter as it goes up and we work on our different layers. So this is just really thinking a few layers ahead of what it is that you wanted to do, trying to be purposeful but also not stressing, because you can add another coat, you can add different colours, you can work on it to get to that piece that you want. So I work slightly darker at the bottom and I come lighter blue and then into the greens as I get to the top level. So you'll be able to see where it is that I'm doing, and I think it's just a bit of restraint at this time and not panicking, and just knowing that it's okay to walk away and come back and fix anything up on the next layer. But I'll let you enjoy. I'll put some of Sharon's Dodgy FM on, and I'd love to know your thoughts. What are you thinking to this process so far? Let me know. And Kat, how does it feel seeing your amazing family of whales come together and this ocean start to take shape? So I've got my easel now just to make it a little bit easier. All 5 of those whales are going to come forward, but I am going to start to add my white markings on them. Now, when I add my second layer of resin, I'm going to bring the colours more turquoise. There will be a little bit of transparency in there. So some of this darkness will come through, but I'm hoping it's going to balance out beautifully with the colours that I use from my ocean and a little bit of white in there. Not too much, just enough so it looks like the ocean's sort of moving. And then I'll decide, do I paint them all? I think I will, because I never know until I put my resin down and the white marks and the foam which ones I'm going to have higher or lower, and whether I keep that one as deep down, so then I bring these two further up. So I go on a journey, I see where it's going to take me. Overall, this has still got a real nice energy, and you might not be able to see it. You can see me there. The glitter is stunning, so I'll pull back a little bit on the glitter. I will still add some to this resin, but not a lot. And I'll probably add more white on this layer so that when I add the next layer, it'll come through a little bit, but not so subtle. It'll just add to the churning, and then the final layer will have more. So all you see me doing is painting in with black acrylic paint back over my silhouettes, and then start to add my embellishment. Now I'm not going to show you the full process of this because you have seen it before, and this is why painting it on your first layer is great, because it's a guide for you then as you go up. So they're almost like your stencil. Anyway, I'll put a little bit of Sharon's Dodgy FM on while you see me paint these. Painting the white bits, as I said before, is an optional extra. You might not want to do it at this stage. You might want to leave it until the next layer when you've added your first bit of foam. But I just like to do this because it's a way of me connecting with a piece, seeing where it's going to get to. And also, I might have a great resin layer that has some nice effects over a whale, and I'd hate to then have to paint over it again. Anyway, back to Sharon's Dodgy FM. Hope you're loving seeing this process. Okay, it's a late one for me, it's 12:20, but I am very happy with how I have done this pot of whales for the first painting in of the personalities. And my reference photo, never be ashamed to have a reference photo. It's not meant to be photorealism. I put my own quirkinesses in my whales that I enjoy, and that's the joy of painting. You can create them and tweak them in your fantasy world. They exist. Now, I'm very happy with the end result. It's too late for me to start my resin, so I'll do resin in the morning. And as I say, we will start to create more movement in the ocean. We will brighten it up. We'll put a little bit of foam around there. And then we'll work out which of these whales need to come up higher. And so it means, yes, we do have to paint it again. And that's why I always say it's optional whether you paint these bits in. But I want to see where the resin's going to go, and then I'm going to work with it. And it's always best to paint it in, knowing that if you end up with a really nice next coat of resin, you can leave it or you keep going. Anyway, love, 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 love. Hope you do too. See ya for the next chapter. It's the next morning and I was so excited to get up and work from this. So it's safely under there. I've just left my board on there just a little bit just to stop any dust going in there. I have made sure it's all level at the back. And I mixed up 240 mils, so an extra 40 mils of resin, because again, even though I want it to cover, I want it to be thin, so that if I do have to paint my whales back on again, it's not going to make this piece too heavy. So it's all about just creating depth with just the right amount of resin. The colours I am going to use are, I'm going to my Peebo, so back to the original one, and this is what I'm going to use to brighten it. Now, these are a blue-green, a green-blue, a turquoise. This one is a cyan. And then I have the Casting Craft Opaque, which I'm going to use very sparingly. Within my glitter, within my resin, I've added a little bit of glitter, and this time it's got a slight green tinge rather than the white. And this is where I've added some directly to the resin and stirred it through. And this one is by Rebel Glitters. I'll just put my lid on one-handedly. Look at that skill there, and it is Ignition Dust. And I've mixed that through already. So what I am envisaging is this will be my Casting Craft Opaque, so very little. And then although those colours are very similar to each other, some of them have like a shimmer in them and some don't. So with the cyan, it should offer a nice blending if I mix it together. So I've distributed the colours. I'm going to be reserved when I add them in. It's going to be a tiny pea-like shape, but maybe smaller. Because I want to make sure it's transparent enough and it's not going to cover the whole whales up. So I've kept some clear back just in case I need to dilute the colour. And if I go on and it's too transparent, I'll add a little bit more. But I'm going to start around the whale first and then build the colour intensity if I need to. And that's all we're really going to want at this. You will need a heat gun just to blow the Casting Craft around, but at this stage we're not going for the final result, so you want it sort of loose. You want the white to more or less blend in, so you might see me come in and rubbing my fingers through there and then get my heat gun just to create that illusion of movement in the ocean and to trick the mind. And then we can either intensify that on the next layer or we can pull back if we've overcommitted. So I'm going to start adding one last thing. Is resin doesn't like water, so your acrylics that you're using, because you can use any brand, may respond differently. So I won't add my acrylic to this resin until I'm going to apply it directly to my canvas, just in case it starts to go gooey or anything like that. If you only apply it the minute it goes down, it's going to be all good. Anyway, that's Sharon's hot tip for you. Let's get on with this. So you see me add clear over the whales. Now, I know that I'm going to be adding colour and it is going to blend in there, but I just thought if I add a little bit of clear there, when I do add the colour, if I put it on and it's too intense, the colour, or too opaque, this will dilute it down. But when I've got the other colours, if they are too light and I want to add a little bit of colour into that, I can sort of blend it in with my hands. So you'll get the drift as you see me adding the colours. And I just force my clear resin to come out a little bit. The reason I'm doing that is it's going to bleed out anyway. So I just want it to stretch out, thin out, so that when I do add that colour, it's going to be in there. And I'm just not pushing down too heavy because I don't want to ruin my artwork that's underneath there. You'll then see me come in and I'm going to add my Peebo. This is the green blue. Now this is the colour that I end up with as my top layer. So getting slightly ahead of myself, but I'm putting the slightly lighter colours over the whales, and you can see I'm pushing it over the top of that clear to try and get some colour in there. And for the first layer, it's still transparent, but I'm not too upset by that. I didn't want to make it any intense because there's going to be another 2 layers on this. So coming in with the turquoise. So on the next layer to this I use more turquoise, but on the final layer it becomes more green. I should really just focus on this one here. So again, blending those colours through, and the reason I do multiple colours again is those tones underneath, I want them to come through. Oh, there we are with that blue-green. So we've had green-blue, turquoise, now we're on blue-green. And these are the colours that I use for this. I don't add any more of the deeper colour other than the cyan. But I do want you to still capture, there's the cyan, I do want you to capture what's underneath coming through. And I think I get the blend of that right, but at the end of this layer I can see it's still quite dark, so that's why on the second layer I went to the I want to say it was it turquoise? Yeah, I went turquoise on the next layer and then the green blue, just so that with each layer it's getting slightly lighter. Just making sure I'm getting around those edges again, because like I said before, I can be a messy worker. And then I will slowly add my popsicle stick in there and my hands to blend those colours together again, and just help create that movement. I'll then add my Casting Craft in there. I was going to say no rhyme or reason, but there is restraint. You just want to make sure when you're pouring it in there, it's going to add to that sense of movement. So I'm not trying to replicate waves or anything like that. That's not what they're meant to be. When I add the Casting Craft to my level resin area, which I'm currently trying to work on, that's where I had a little bit of the acrylic that are not blended in. You can just see it under my hand there, and that's something you have to be mindful with acrylic and resin. So you'll see me go in there and get my hands and really blend that in, so there's no weird blotches of resin. That's all I can say. And you'll see me also come in on the top of my white frame. You can see I've got a little bit of resin there, so I'll come in with my cotton buds, which is a hot tip for you if you didn't know. They can sorry, purposely remove any spillages that you've got. And I was trying to work smart, not hard, so I was cleaning up as I was going. Don't worry, I do put my gloves back on. So this is where you can see with the casting craft, I didn't want it too opaque, but I also didn't want it too transparent. I'm just going to apply it in a random order. You'll see me come with my hand and then blend it in, and I start to focus on the whales where I think the movement's going to come underneath the whale. And again, not trying to make it look like that they have created waves or anything like that, just that churn. Now it might look really strange for you in this layer, but when we come back to the next layer, you'll see what I mean. It adds value to that whale that we will paint back over again, to that sense of movement, or that they've just splashed back into the ocean. Anyway, that's a little bit of what I'm doing now. So I'm going to put a little bit of Sharon's Dodgy FM on, and you can watch this process, and then we'll show you the end results and then how I decide which whales I'm going to bring back up again to the next layer. Okay, this is the first layer then where I've created the waves. Now, this will be toned down when I add the colours over this again. It looks a lot darker in video than it is in live, but when I tip it up again, when we next work on the whales, you'll be able to see what I mean. But I just wanted this to be underneath the ocean, and because the colours will go on top, it'll tone down the white, but it should give you that sense of movement, and those different colours coming up underneath as well, I think add a lot of interest. I'm really happy with how I've got a little bit of movement around the tail. There's a little bit of the movement going over the ocean, over the waves, and then I've got to work out, should I leave baby deep down now and then raise resin over him, or keep it clear, or add colour, or bring him up? So that I'm going to wait until I see what the resin gods do while this sets, because there's always going to be a bit of movement. I'm really happy that it looks like the foam is staying where the tail's meant to be. There's a little bit of movement around the fins, but nothing too much, but it's all within keeping of the ocean. So yeah, I really like the baby. I think I might keep him as is. Anyway, I'm digressing. We'll come back and I will show you this when it is cured and set down. We'll cover it up. I've removed my dust. Not that that's a major issue because we're going to the next layer, but yeah, I will see you in 24 hours for the next stage. So you'll see me, I choose a couple of whales that I am going to bring forward. So what I do with that is I just repaint over the silhouette as you've seen before, and then I add my white embellishments. At this stage I'm thinking that the others that I don't paint, they still have enough perspective for you to be able to see them. So when I add my next layer of resin, they should still come through. But it's the dance that you do with resin. And it's only when you add your next layer do you think, okay, well, yes, I got that right. Or, you know what? No, I want to bring the other one forward. So each time I do this, it's an optional extra. You don't have to do the different layers that I'm doing. It depends on what you find beauty in. It depends on what looks aesthetically pleasing to you. And although when I do this layer, I really enjoy how it's progressing, I wanted to bring back the other ones that weren't painted forward in here. And I also felt from a perspective point of view, I wanted to add a little something else. So you'll see what I mean in the next layer. So I will put a little bit of Sharon's Dodgy FM on for a little while, because this is just repetition of what we've done on the previous layers. And yeah, hence why I'll put some music on now. But I hope you're still enjoying. Speak soon. So this is all repeating of what I did on the previous layer. I put clear down over the 3 whales that I didn't bring forward to try and protect them, and then I just added the turquoise all the way through just to try and start to line it up. And I've added my casting craft the same way that I did before, and blending it through with my hands to try and give that sense of movement rather than a sense of waves. Now at this point I could see that the 3 that I didn't bring forward are probably going a little bit too dark for me, that you're losing them a little bit too much. Now there's always whales that are deep if you've got an aerial photo that you can't see the whole way, so I decided I'm just going to continue with the process and see how I feel, and see whether I do want to bring those forward, because I'm going to apply my heat gun. That white's going to disappear a little bit and we're going to get that sense of movement. I end up bringing them forward and I end up adding 2 extra whales in there just to help with that, I think, composition. And so there's 1 more layer of resin and 1 more painting of the whales, and then it's done. But because I've been quite restrained with my resin and only applying what I needed to, it didn't matter. I could have got away with another layer of resin if needed, before it would have started to encroach on the picture frame, but it wasn't needed. The resin gods were kind, and it all the way through this piece channeled positive energy, and I'm hoping you're feeling that, and I hope you're having a sense of calmness while watching this create. So I will finish off now with Sharon's Dodgy FM. You will see on the next layer of whales that I paint, I take a little bit more time with painting them on, and I add, you don't see that part, I just cut that part out, but you see them close up, and you'll see that it's darker around the edge and it comes slightly more grey as it gets to the top to help with that perspective. But enjoy, let me know your thoughts, and we will be back at review time to talk through the parts that I really am in love with and that I enjoyed about this piece. I am so proud with the end result because I've seen it, you're going through it, and I hope that you enjoy seeing it as well. All right, back to Sharon's Dodgy FM. So this is the point where, to me, I realised that I'd lost a lot of the other whales. So I came in and brought the other 3 to the top and added 2 more there. Now for me, what that did was it played with the depth. So you've got 5 now that's been brought up. I paid more attention to when I was painting in my whales with the black around the edge and slowly coming up that grey, which is going to help with that sense of 3D of that wave. The 2 big whales, I feel that they're submerged enough for you to not get their full attention, but you're curious and you can tell that they're a little bit deeper. Anyway, it's a decision that you will make when you're doing your art. You could have made the decision just to stop at the first stage, third, or now. Just be really happy with what it is that you create, and don't worry if you're going to create another layer. Yeah, I think it works. As I said, super proud of the end result, but I just thought I'd make you aware. The reason I didn't show me painting those again is you've seen that 2 stages already, so a 3rd stage might have been a bit overkill. Anyway, back to Dodgy FM. I have just peeled off my masking tape and you can see very little leakage. I only had a little bit in this top corner here, but that's not going to ruin this piece. And I always put a little message to the person. So Catherine, I hope you really enjoy this piece. It's an original one-of-a-kind resin art by myself, and I hope you will love this as much as me, because there is magic in this piece as there is in your beautiful soul. Anyway, let's show you the end result. It is always very hard to show you what this looks like in its true beauty because of the high shine that comes in there. But I'm going to put my little torch over it now, so hopefully you will see some of that glitter that is capturing that. Let me have a little look. The picture frame as well, and in that ocean. Oh, you can see my light there. I'll try not to go in there. So that gives you more of the green tones that are in there, and I absolutely love every aspect of this piece. I just love the depth in the ocean and the movement and those beautiful effects that come up from that whale and their tails flapping away. And you just really get that sense of movement and that they are heading somewhere. Apologies for the high shine. And it's just so interesting to look at. I just wonder, where are they swimming to? What are they up to? I love like the mum there guiding her little baby around there, and the old big soul there taking them on a little journey. Anyway, I don't think I'm going to really be able to capture what this piece is like. Never in a video. Just try and see if I can do a flyover with you where you get to see the glisten. Now, Catherine, I hope that you enjoy this as much as I do. Thank you for your patience while I create it. I'm sure it's going to feel more magical when you see it in person. And I'm now going to get on with your beach scene. So these should hopefully be with you, yeah, before Christmas. All the way to Australia, mate. Look at that happy churning there. I think this gives you the best sort of view as to what it is that I'm seeing. Just there. I hope you found value in this video. If I did, thumbs up, subscribe, share, comments are always welcome. Come back and see me. Have a whale of a good time. Bye bye.